All right, folks, 6 days until Election Day. We are going down to the wire. It is getting wild and crazy out there all across this country. You have ballot initiatives in North Carolina, in Michigan, plus Florida. You also have huge gubernatorial races in Maryland, in Georgia, as well as in Florida. Of course, you get the big Senate races all across the country as well. And so all of our attention and focus on voting. And one of the reasons I'm wearing this hat right here, because I cannot deal with black people who are sitting on their ass and who don't want to vote. And then, of course, those out there who say voting is important, like you, Jason Whitlock, which is about the dumbest thing in the world, because how in the hell you think stuff actually gets changed in this country? Speaking of that, big changes happening in Georgia, where the queen of talk, she is hitting the campaign trail this weekend for Stacey Abrams. That's right, Oprah is going to be making her way to Georgia to campaign for Stacey Abrams. It is an absolutely tight race there in the Peach State. And look, I'm telling you right, it's just, again, it's all kind of drama there. Speaking of drama, Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, I forgot the third dude who's running, I don't know who he is. They're supposed to have a debate on Sunday on WSB. It's supposed to be at 5 p.m., but Brian Kemp said, I can't make it because I'm going to be at the Trump rally at 4 o'clock. And so he's pulling out of that, and now he's trying to blame Stacey Abrams for it. Dude, it was set. Everybody else got it. How is it that you didn't get it as well? And so also, speaking of Brian Kemp, civil rights groups have won another victory in that case. A federal judge has declined to pause an injunction she ordered that changes how Georgia election officials evaluate absentee ballots. That pause was requested by Secretary of State Brian Kemp. Voters, of course, with mismatches must be notified of the problem. They can appeal the decision and vote with a provisional ballot. I want to go to my panel right now. Let's get right into it. On my far left, of course, Joe Madison, the Black Eagle, Sirius XM Radio. Also, Law and Victoria Burke, writer for National Newspaper Reporters Association. Of course, Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant is in the house. Empowerment Temple in Baltimore, and Deborah Simmons, senior correspondent of the Washington Times. Glad to have all of you here. All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, one of our partners here, Trans Real Estate. If you're looking for a hot new investment opportunity, I have two things I want you to think about: legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, you just let that sink into your head for a second. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created a unique opportunity for everyday investors like you to get in the game for a minimum of $300 up to $10,000. Look, you get in where you can fit in. Now, typically, it takes millions, if not billions, to invest in the legal marijuana industry, and it can be pretty risky trying to establish market share. However, Transatlantic Real Estate is taking a different approach. They buy the land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, imagine being a landlord to a licensed marijuana farm. With the prospects of further legalization and changing public perceptions about marijuana, some investors could end up making some serious money over the next several years. The best part is they're using crowdfunding so you can get in now before they take the company public. If you want to find out more information, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered. So, it's getting a little froggy out there. Brian Kemp, Deborah, is a little worried.
He ought to be worried. I mean, I think he thought that, okay, Trump did what he did in Georgia. I'm going to do what I do in Georgia. And there's a whole bunch of folks down there in red clay dirt territory that's saying, wait a minute, hold up. Who do you think you are? You know what? You really have to go head to head. The United States today is not the United States we had in 2016. It's not the United States we had in 2014. Right. And it's certainly not the United States that Barack Obama swung into, put him in place back in 2008. And you have to measure yourself and measure your tone, which President Trump isn't doing, as we all know, every election, not just every 4 years, but every election, whether it's a state election or a national election.
So the key here, Lauren, is that what Stacey Abrams did, first of all, with the Georgia Voter Project, registering some 300,000 people. You look at what took place in 2016, where you had a candidate running for U.S. Senate, white female. Bottom line is, she was not sitting here even trying to compete for black folks. It was one of those things with, okay, I don't want to talk to black people. I'm really trying to convince these white people, especially suburban women, and she got her behind dusted. Stacey Abrams said, no, I'm going to focus on the people. who actually vote for us, and I'm trying to turn out more of them versus trying to go after that mythical white woman who never seems to show the hell up.
What a concept, right? To bring people to the polls who actually vote for the party that you're in over 90% of the time, which is basically what Steve Phillips, of course, has been writing about for years. And we'll see if it actually happens. You know, one of the issues here is that Libertarian candidate, Ted Metz, who is probably going to take votes away from Kemp, and probably prevent them both from getting to 50%. So if we go to the December runoff, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I do think she'll probably get more votes than Kemp, and that's, you know, a huge victory in itself. But if she doesn't make the 50 and we have the runoff in December, it kind of takes the joy out of it for that moment. We'll see what happens. Traditionally in these polls, even though we know it's going to be close, everybody knows it's going to be close, there is an undercount for minority voters. So hopefully that'll be the case here. And if we see that in Texas, that Beto O'Rourke pulls that out, which is unlikely actually, but if he did pull that out, the more likely one, of course, is Andrew Gillum in Florida. You could have what you could define as a realignment in the South if those three people were to win, or if only two of them won, if two of the three.
Right.
Because, of course, Georgia and Florida are red states. Obviously, Texas is a red state. And as much as everybody talks about Georgia every single cycle, it usually does go Republican. So the fact that she's ahead in the polls is actually in itself a pretty amazing thing.
Joe and Jamal, bottom line is here. If you want to win, again, this is real simple. You turn out those who you know are going to come out. Jamal, look, it's like look, being a pastor of a church, you know who gonna show up to Bible study.
Absolutely.
You know who gonna show up. Now, if you want to spend all your time trying to get the folk who not gonna show up and ignore the folks who do show up, then you're gonna have a problem. Stacey Abrams has run a smart campaign saying, no, go after the people and turn out more of them who we know are likely to vote for her.
But she also did something that's not conventional for black politics, is she started her base in rural areas and then moved towards Atlanta. And a lot of people 18 months ago said, oh, this is crazy. There's no way it's going to work. And so she really has revolutionized our model to say we've got to go after a much larger base. The other part is look at the people who didn't vote. I contend, as I go to colleges all over the country, is Trump was elected not from the people who voted for him, but for the people who didn't show up to vote. And so if we can get those people back engaged in the process. I took my daughters to go vote Monday and was amazed. We had to wait in line for 30 minutes. At the last election...
And that's early voting.
Yeah, that's for early voting. The last election, we were whistling Dixie and playing Uno. But this one, I had to really wait. And even the marshal said, we haven't seen this since '08. So I think it's going to be a lot of upsets on Tuesday night. I think all of us are going to be up.
Yo, they forget that black people in rural Georgia, too.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
That's absolutely true. So, and there's two things. One, she has a track record as a state legislator.
Yes.
And so that means that you look at that record, it's not her ideology that they want to keep playing on. Oh, she's a liberal progressive. She has been saying, look at the legislation that I introduced, look at the legislation that I voted for, and quite candidly, it's helped more white rural folk than, or just as much as it's helped urban Atlanta. Then there's the other factor, what's still fresh in everybody's mind. Georgia is next to Alabama, and Alabama shifted. And people remember that. So I think the black women in Georgia are trying to show the black women in Alabama that we can do the same thing. And let me tell you, with Oprah coming down there,
it's going to be heavy.
It's going to be fascinating to see the energy that she brings.
Well, it's
in
back
the
to
last
back.
minute.
Obama will be there this weekend.
Oh, my
He's
goodness.
going to Morehouse, right?
And, he'll be at Morehouse, and Oprah also will be following as well. And again, and then, of course, Monday at Ebenezer, there's going to be a prayer rally at 7 p.m. That night. Reverend William Barber, of course, Pastor Ralph Warnock, all of them are going to be there. That's taking place on Monday evening as well. And so you have a strong closing. Same thing for Andrew Gillum. That's taking place in Florida. Of course, we can't forget Ben Jealous, who's running in Maryland. Republicans are actually worried because they're seeing significant turnout as well.